Welcome to our online viewers. Just to 7:05 on the dot right here. Sorry we're 5 minutes late. We're getting things in order. Yeah, the whole power outage thing has us all aflutter. Obviously, people that are watching us without power, watching us online, we feel for you. Hopefully, things are going okay. You know, Dave, Adrian, Tony here. We're holding down the fort, getting some answers for you on the many questions you have about this power outage, and also tracking what's happening, because we talked about that fire earlier in an area that wasn't shut down by the power, but still, this kicked up pretty good.
Yeah, it really did. It was fast moving. We know about 50 acres burned along both sides of Highway 12. It started around 3:30 this afternoon. It started in Solano County near Rio Vista. We now know that the fire is 100% contained. That's some great news. But about 200 acres in all ended up burning in this, just getting some updated numbers. Again, west of Rio Vista near Highway 12 and Highway 113, a pretty remote area. Highway 12 was shut down for a short time, but we are also hearing a mechanical issue, guys, with a tractor trailer sparked this fire.
And you can see wind driven there for sure.
Yeah, no
One good thing,
that.
they had crews already in place in that area because of the high fire danger. You heard David a second ago. You can't see him, but you heard him. He's going to be along. There he is. He's going to be along with the forecast. But a big part of why we're doing this, obviously, we're getting answers, right? So we want to go straight to PG&E to find out exactly what answers they have for many of our questions.
Yeah, Sharon Roger is sitting down with a spokesperson with PG&E, trying to get some of those answers for us tonight. Sharon, what do you have?
Yeah, Tony and Adrian, we're here in El Dorado Hills, one of the 28 resource centers that PG&E has established in the impacted areas. As you look here around me, this resource center basically is a place for people to come, grab water, charge their phones, get some resources, find out what's happening in their area. And these resource centers are throughout the impacted areas that have their power shut off. By tomorrow morning, there'll be 5 more of them. I want to bring in Brandy Merlot from PG&E. We have a lot of viewers that contacted us through Facebook and on social media, Brandy, to ask us some questions. Obviously, a lot of frustration out there. This is impacting a lot of people's livelihoods, their jobs, their way of life over the next few days, and who knows when restoration will happen. So thank you for being available and for answering these questions. One of the big questions that we want to first get to is, will these shutoffs become the new normal? Is this what we're going to be expecting to see every time we see a severe weather event like this take place?
The Public Safety Power Shutoff program is really designed as part of our larger community wildfire safety program to reduce the risk of wildfire. So there's very specific things we're looking for when we call a public safety power shutoff, including but not limited to a red flag warning, humidity levels in the air as well as in the vegetation, sustained winds and wind gusts, as well as real-time information from our more than 600 weather stations across our service area. So we're really taking all those things into account when we call a public safety power shutoff. We completely understand how impactful it is to our customers. We want them to know we are working on getting through the weather event and working to restore their power as soon as it's safe to do so.
We were just listening to a press conference by your vice president, and he said, unfortunately, given the situation that you're still working on building up your infrastructure and given the environmental conditions, that this might be something that does happen again within a couple of weeks, depending on weather conditions.
Yeah, so this is part of our larger community wildfire safety program, and that is multifaceted. It involves accelerated safety inspections of our equipment. It involves enhanced vegetation management, our weather station network of more than 600 weather stations, more than 100 high-definition wildfire cameras, also enhanced vegetation management and system hardening. So that's really replacing wood poles with non-wood material, putting up coated tree wire, and undergrounding wires where it makes sense.
Yeah, Brandy, these are the things that you're mentioning, these aggressive goals that PG&E has right now that your VP said that you are on track to finishing, but it could take years to complete. So these power outages might be the new normal, at least for now, until we kind of get that infrastructure in place. Tam, that was a question from Patty. This is a question from Tammy. She says, why isn't there an alternative to turning off people's power?
Yeah, so this is just one program that we use in our toolbox to work with this weather we've seen over the last few years and this extreme fire conditions we've seen over the last few years. So we're really working to reduce the risk of wildfire. These, according to our meteorologists, these winds we've seen, these Diablo winds that are forecasted overnight into tomorrow, are really those historically catastrophic winds we've seen in the past.
So that's why the power shut off, because of the severity of the conditions?
Correct.
Okay. April asks, a lot of people are voicing their frustration of having power shut off at midnight. I know some people that live in the foothills say, hey, we don't even see strong winds here, but our power was shut off either by midnight or early this morning. Really frustrating because they're not in the high risk areas. Why was that the call of action by PG&E to shut off power so early, so prematurely in areas that have not seen strong wind gusts?
So shutting off the power is a complex process, and it can take a little bit of time. So certainly we want to make sure we're doing that before the winds show up. And what happened overnight is typically we have to shut off certain areas because of the interconnected nature of the grid. We rely on power lines to work together to serve cities, counties, and regions. So there is completely likely that some customers may not see the severe conditions that we're anticipating and still be without power.
So there wasn't a way, even like let's say in the foothills, where they may not see these severe winds, and if they do, it's nothing like the 45 mile to 50 mile gusts. Still, they have to kind of get the ripple effect here.
Yeah, so we base our decision off of the weather forecasts and the forecast that we're seeing, and we use the information from our weather stations out in the field to really determine the need for this. So certainly we made adjustments with the second wave of shutoffs, and we'll certainly look to refine the process as we move forward.
Yeah, it looks like your VP in the press conference was talking about some areas actually they're kind of reassessing, reevaluating, and there have been thousands of people right now that have gotten their power restored. What's kind of going into that decision making?
Yeah, so there has been some areas where we've been able to reconfigure the power and restore about 44,000 customers, a lot of those in the Sacramento Valley region. So we've been able to restore those customers safely and put about 44,000 back in.
And that's just because you are looking at it and going, hey, these are not really high-risk areas?
Yeah, we've been able to reroute the power around, still keep those customers in those more critical areas without power, and restore those customers that are a little bit better off.
Okay. Nova was asking, you know, we've been hearing, I think, up to $11 million of bonuses that have gone to executives just recently in the last few months. But when you talk about these millions of dollars of bonuses going to executives when we don't have, you know, underground lines created yet, when the infrastructure has not been built yet, when there's so much work to be done, and given all of the fires that we've had with PG&E, how can you justify these bonuses?
Yeah, so that's a completely different process outside of this community wildfire safety program. Certainly we're looking to upgrade our infrastructure and work on our vegetation management, as well as installing weather stations and weather cameras. So certainly something we're working on in the long term.
So no real comment on why, you know, why these bonuses during such a difficult time?
Yeah, we know it's difficult for our customers to hear, but it's certainly something, you know, we're working on.
Okay. Tony, Adrian, did you have any questions for PG&E?
Yeah, we certainly did. Sharon, we know Governor Newsom today was, he did not mince his words when he said that PG&E needs to update its technology, and Californians have every right to be outraged by these massive outages. What's PG&E's response to that?
Yeah, Brandy, we spoke about this a little earlier, but Governor Newsom came out really boldly saying that, you know, people of California should be outraged that they have to even go through this, that PG&E has really been dragging its feet. Technology has not been upgraded. There's been mismanagement. What do you say to these strong words of the governor during this time?
So we're working on upgrading our system. We're working on keeping our customers and our communities safe. And our overall community wildfire safety program is really part of all the things we're doing collectively to reduce the risk of wildfire across our state. It will take some time, but it's certainly something we are rapidly moving forward on.
Do you feel it's fair to say that PG&E has been dragging its feet, or basically that it's gotten itself into this mess, yet the people of California are having to deal with the consequences?
Certainly today we're looking forward. We're looking forward to ways we can improve our system and ways we can improve our infrastructure and our vegetation management and all of those types of things. So we're certainly working on it moving forward.
Let's talk about the frustration that's out there. People are okay. They're out of power. There's businesses that are losing money by the day. Is there any kind of indication as to when that power can be restored for folks that are maybe out of power tonight?
So we have to wait for the weather all clear from our meteorological team, and then we will send out our resources. We already have 45 helicopters secured along with 700 employees to go out and start restoration efforts as soon as it's safe to do so. We need to patrol all the lines and put our eyes physically on them to ensure there's no damage or no issues when we turn the power back on. The last thing we want to do is turn the power back on and it's not safe to do so. So we will be patrolling those lines and getting those customers back in power as soon as it's safe to do so.
Again, just to clarify, given the infrastructure and how it's basically not up to par, given the severity of the conditions, would you say that this was necessary at this time for 800,000 people to be without power?
Yeah, the winds that our meteorological team was forecasting deemed that this event was necessary to keep our customers safe and reduce the risk of wildfires across our state.
I know that there's a new website that is just rolled out. I'm sure we'll put it on the screen for folks to kind of be able to get resources. But your website was down for a while. Is that going to be an issue going forward?
You know, we're working on it in a variety of different ways. We just launched a new website that customers can put their address in and get more information about our community wildfire safety program as well as our public safety power shutoff program. We were seeing increased traffic 7 to 8 times the normal usage. And in advance of this on Monday, we did double our capacity already. So we certainly saw an increase and we want to make sure we're here for our customers. They can get information from us and that we're available to them. So we have launched that new website.
I want to get one more question in. A lot of folks are without power who might have medical conditions. They might be elderly. Are you checking on them in any way? Are you making sure that they're okay throughout this process?
Certainly, we're providing community resource centers across the areas that are impacted, and that really allows during the daytime hours for customers to come out and recharge any equipment they may need or anything like that. We have been encouraging customers for quite some time since the program started last year to ensure they have a plan. We're not just talking about public safety power shutoffs. Your power can go out for any time. There can also be emergency disasters, natural disasters, right? Fires, earthquakes. So we want our customers and all Californians to be prepared for potential outages, whether it's for a safety shutoff or other reasons.
And you were telling me if you can reiterate what you're doing for folks that have medical conditions.
Yeah, for our medical baseline customers that are signed up under our program, we are alerting them with our texts, our phone calls, our emails, and then we are asking for positive contact back to us. If we don't get that, we will go out and knock on their door to make sure they know what's happening and that they can potentially enact their safety plan.
All right, Brandy, before we let you go, any more questions from the studio?
Yeah, sure. And actually, speaking to what you were just talking about, we've been hearing from a lot of viewers. I'm going to read an email, and then I have a specific question if you could ask it to Brandy. But Betty Louise says she thinks what PG&E is doing is excessive. So if they feel the need to shut down electricity where someone's life relies on a machine to live, then my suggestion is simple. Demand PG&E to buy a generator for those people who have a medical necessity. She goes on to say, I have family friends who must inject life-sustaining insulin to stay alive. It must be refrigerated. With the rising cost of medical equipment and medications, how are they supposed to afford a generator to stay alive? Look, I think it's pretty clear that PG&E is in a situation. Don't cut power. They cause another fire. Do cut power. Isn't there risk with this as well? Couldn't they be putting even more lives at risk by cutting power and these people who need their insulin, who need their oxygen, who don't have the ability to reach out for help, and they can't wait for somebody to knock on their door? Couldn't we have deaths here as well?
All right, good question. I'll try to reiterate all of that to you. So one of our viewers, obviously, she understands that the need for the power shutoffs because of the fire risk. But when it comes to people that are dependent on medical devices, where it's a matter of life or death, where they need their insulin, they need their oxygen, they don't have time for someone to essentially come and knock on their door. Has PG&E thought this through, and how big of a risk is this to leave those folks kind of hanging? Could there have been an option to find out who those folks are, to maybe get generators for them?
You know, we're really relying on reaching out to our customers through phone calls, text messages, emails, and we certainly understand there's a vulnerable population out there when it comes to medical needs. Certainly, if you have equipment that you need life-saving equipment for, or you have a condition you need medical equipment for, we really want you to think about it, because like I said before, it's not just a public safety power shutoff. It could be a fire or an earthquake or other things that cause the power to be out. So we really want our customers to be prepared.
All right, we want to take one soundbite by Governor Newsom and his reaction to the PG&E power outages. I know that we spoke about it briefly, but the governor kind of came out really strongly today and essentially criticizing for PG&E for getting us into this mess in the first place and saying, hey, Californians should not have had to go through this in the first place. But let's listen to what the governor had to say earlier today, and I just want to get your reaction again to his response to what's happening.
I'm outraged because it didn't need to happen. Didn't need to happen if you had a investor-owned utility was making kind of investments that your investor-owned utility was making down here, and focusing on modern transmission lines, and focusing on modern ways of turning on and off lights that wouldn't be disruptive in the aggregate to 1 million or 2 million people, as it potentially may impact over the next 24 to 48 hours. So it was unnecessary. They're in bankruptcy because of their terrible management going back decades.
So the governor basically saying that this was unnecessary. This was based on the mismanagement of PG&E. They need to modernize their technology. Again, if you can kind of, I'm sure there's been talks with the company about this. Is there anything that you can say in response to the governor?
So as I said before, this program is really about safety, and our meteorological team has determined that the wind event we are expecting overnight tonight is one of those historically catastrophic wind events. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to ensure the safety of our customers. We certainly understand their concerns and their frustrations, and we want them to remember that our employees out in the field are their neighbors, their friends, their family members, and that they're trying to work out there to keep our customers safe.
Yeah, and I think as Brandy was saying that it is necessary given the situation right now. The VP of PG&E was talking at a press conference, and he said, hey, listen, we can talk about the blame and the finger pointing on Monday, but today they're focused on safety. Brandy, we thank you for your time. There's a lot of questions still that a lot of folks want answered. We're going to try to get those answered throughout the night. But again, we are at one of the 28 resource centers here in El Dorado Hills. If you have a question, if you're living in the area, please come visit out and check out PG&E's new website. We'll have much more coming up later in the newscast.
All right, thanks, Sharon, and thank you, Brandy. A lot of talking points, but, you know, she stood and answered some questions, and we appreciate that. A lot of frustrated people, though, aren't going to be happy with some of the answers. 7:22 right now. You're watching us online. Welcome to our viewers, CBS13.com, on our Facebook page. Adrian and I and Dave Bender, Curtis Ming, you saw Sharon. By the way, we're going to have full coverage at 10 o'clock tonight on CBS 13, 10 and 11. A lot can change between now and then. Live look from Fairfield. All right, there you can't, really see the wind without looking at a flag or something right there, but we know that it's strong out there, huh?
Yeah, it certainly is. And we've got another sky cam to show you here. This is a live look we're going to go to in Sacramento. There's the flag. See, ask and you shall receive. There it is.
It's like starched.
And it certainly does.
Next, I'd like to see Dave Bender appear. Oh, no, Stockton.
Now to Stockton we go.
That's ripping from a different vantage point right there. Not a good day to buy a toupee, that's for sure, Dave.
No,
or wear a kilt.
Short skirt alert today.
Yeah,
all that.
Speak for yourself.
You could fly an iron kite out there in spots over toward the west side of the valley primarily, and that is where we're going to see the pressure gradient steepen a little bit. It's going to strengthen up a little bit as we head into the evening hours, and that's what Brandy was talking about the increase in winds a little later on tonight. But it will be, the strongest winds are going to be from about the Sacramento River off to the west. The foothills will get some gusts tonight, maybe at around 30, but not like the potential 45-plus mile-per-hour gust that we could see over toward the west. And we've already seen gusts today pushing into the 30-plus mile-per-hour range. So basically right here, as you can see, we're looking at fair conditions all over the place, and we'll continue to have those just because we've got those winds that are kicking. So let's talk a little bit about the winds and see what we got going here. If my computer will decide to cooperate with me, there you go. We've got them sustained out of the northwest at around 20 to 21, and notice how they're north and west of the Sacramento area here. That is primarily the corridor for this wind. So when we bring in the wind gusts here, you'll see they're really starting to kick, and they're coming right down the valley now. So right there in that area north and west of Marysville and Yuba City and Sacramento, we should be seeing these winds probably howling, pushing close to maybe 35 to 40 miles per hour. And again, these are the gusts, and we'll continue to have gusts up in the high country as well. So wind advisory for the most part is until noon on Thursday, so it means we should be done with this in the middle of the day tomorrow. But still, the stronger winds you see on this graphic are reflective of winds over on the west side of the valley, those gusts to 45. That's still a possibility later on tonight into tomorrow. And of course, the normal stuff that could happen with a wind event like that. And this goes till 5 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Extreme fire weather. Yes, a red flag warning for very low relative humidities and, of course, those dry northerly winds. So at this point, we're going to be continuing watching this, monitoring it, and of course, we're going to most likely be dealing with at least the winds for the early part of tomorrow before everything backs down. And of course, we'll at 10 o'clock have the details of what's beyond that, because there's actually some really nice weather. We just got to get through one more day, guys.
Nice weather. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I know,
right?
huh?
Coming up on 7:25, again, you're watching us online here. Special coverage of the ongoing PG&E power outage affecting a lot of people. We're going to read some of your comments, but when we first hit this map, once again, the first phase of the shutoff started overnight. PG&E cut power to more than 500,000 customers. Phase 2, which is in yellow, that started around 3 o'clock this afternoon, impacting about 234,000 customers. Counties in orange on the map have since been added to Phase 2. So part of why we're having this discussion is to hear from you, get you answers, and a lot of people are reacting to the interview we just did, or Sharon just did with Brandy from PG&E.
Yeah, some of these comments are just out of sheer frustration. People say that PG&E not answering our questions very directly. They're tap dancing around a lot of the questions that we asked. Tina Monroy asked if our power was turned off and now turned back on, can it be turned off again tonight or tomorrow? And I believe the answer is yes.
The power can be turned back off.
I would believe so.
Yeah, it's something we can look into.
Yeah,
obviously, that's the fear that people have. You know, am I, in the clear, so to speak?
Yeah.
We do know that starting noon tomorrow, they're going to start inspecting. They said they have, I thought it was hundreds, but you were saying thousands of people out there.
During the news conference that started at 6 o'clock, one of the spokesmen there said that they initially had 700 field crews, 45 helicopters. Now that's been up to 6,000 field crews that can go out and inspect these lines. It's obviously going to be a very long process to do all this.
Right.
I want to get to a couple more comments that we're getting from our viewers on Facebook. Christy Warren Wayne says, does anybody with their power cut off feel any safer right now? That's a good question. I think a lot of people are asking that because so many people are out of their homes, they're staying in hotels, they're staying with friends, they don't know if all their food's going to make it, and just a lot of uncertainty right now.
Yeah, I think obviously first and
that.
foremost we want to keep people safe. I mean, we saw the horrific thing that happened in Paradise and the wine country wildfires, and the last thing you want is for people to get hurt. So it's better safe than sorry. I know it sounds like a cliche, but that's what they're doing. Plus, they're covering themselves, for lack of a better term as well, to make sure that nothing sparks and making sure that they don't spend any more millions. But the question has to be asked about holding their feet to the fire, pun intended, about spending millions of dollars on bonuses and helicopters and other things when they could have built lines underground, as Roseville Electric has done. 80% of that electricity is underground. That's why Roseville Electric doesn't have any outages. I can tell you that there are plenty of people going to Roseville tonight because in Granite Bay they're without power. And other areas as well,
The
Rockland, parts of Rockland.
Yeah,
I called 5 different hotels. They're all sold out. A couple more comments, or do we have any more?
You answered one. Someone was asking, and things are coming in so quickly. We appreciate all the feedback that you guys are giving us and all the questions that you have. But there was a viewer who was asking about Roseville specifically, if Roseville was in danger of being cut off from power, but you tackled that. Let's see. I have a lot of friends in Auburn. They say it looked apocalyptic this morning with everything closed. That's from Linda Black. We've seen that from a number of our reporters out there, Linda, that all of these areas are virtual ghost towns because businesses are closed, schools are closed. So you are not the only one who is feeling that way and seeing that.
Right.
That's for sure.
It was like a tale of two cities in Auburn today. So Old Town Auburn had power, and then closer to the downtown area, the newer part. I know it sounds weird. Old Town is, where Old Town is, right off 80, and then downtown, kind of off Bell Road, that stretch of the road didn't have power. So, the frustration was definitely there. Also, getting gas. I mean, the lines, up to an hour wait to get gas. I know the Gold Run CHP office sent out an alert saying, hey, if you're going to go up past dawn or past, make sure you already have gas because a lot of stations were out of power. So, impacting a lot of people, obviously. Curtis Ming joined us now.
Yeah.
What do you got, Curtis?
Well, a lot of people want to know about cell phone reception, and we're really waiting to see how this has transpired. A viewer, including Mina Mia, asked, what if the cell towers lose power? And we do have answers on that. Here's how this works. The cell phone towers, they do have backup generators, but all of the phone companies have to keep shuttling trucks up there to put fuel in those backup generators. And from past last stories we did, these generators could last about 6 hours. So they got to keep going up there and fueling these generators, or the cell towers do shut down. And that opens up a whole different thing. How many people are holding on to their traditional landline? Because copper landline phones do work when the power goes out. But so many cell phones, or landline phones now, you plug into the wall.
Yeah.
Remember the old phones? They literally just worked off the copper landline. And so if you have a copper landline, you got to make sure you have a phone in the house that is powered without plugging it into the wall. No cordless phones, just one that works off of that. But I will tell you, there is a whole different issue here. A lot of people have been switched off of the copper landline to digital service.
Right.
Digital service, like VoIP, requires you to have a power source. And if you don't have a power source and you pick up the landline, you're not going to get a dial tone. And so it's really important, especially people in the foothills, to make sure you have a copper landline. And on top of that, you have to make sure the phone that you have does not require electricity, that you just have power by picking up the phone and hearing that dial tone.
You know, one of the things that you and I were talking about, Curtis, when we were live on CW31 at 6:30 was this news conference. One of the comments that the PG&E spokesperson made even before this press conference started, and it had to do with an active shooter situation?
Yeah, I was monitoring it. I don't know if this is standard, being in San Francisco, but I will tell you that it struck me. Right before the news conference started, in that room, the person actually told reporters what they should do if there was an active shooter. Also referenced what they should do if there was an earthquake, but wanted to make sure everybody knew how they should evacuate. Now, we have heard reports of the egging in Oroville of a PG&E office. We do know that somebody shot at a PG&E vehicle. We don't know if it's related to this at all, but certainly PG&E is feeling it. And we did see a story earlier where out in front of PG&E, they have barricades out there, so they know that people are really ticked off. I think they are concerned, but it really struck me that they were telling reporters, if there's an active shooter, this is how you get out of the building and where you go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it goes without saying, but every time someone says it, they say it anyway, right? Just don't do anything dumb out there. Obviously, you have people who are working out in the fields with PG&E. They're not the executives you're mad at. They're not the people who are making the final decisions. They're out there just doing their jobs. They have to go home to their wife and kids. So
it's misguided.
Yeah, by all means.
Completely.
You know, we understand the frustration, and it stinks. But you know, as you were talking, I was thinking this. Talk about the new normal. We're ready for earthquakes. We're ready for fires. We're ready for floods. And oh, by the way, we have to be ready for power outages. Doesn't matter where you live now.
Right.
I mean,
you don't know when. What was interesting is, as that question was asked during the news conference earlier about, is this the new normal? Is this going to happen? They were really trying to paint this as an environmental change over the years. We didn't expect to have droughts as we're having. We didn't expect to have all these environmental issues. And so they kind of are blaming it on that instead of focusing on what so many people have been talking about, and what you referenced earlier is, why didn't they bury those power lines? You have this huge infrastructure, and after you kill people in a fire, it's a little too late to start thinking about burying the lines then. They also talked about how their goal this year was to harden the lines, 150 miles of lines. Well, they have so many more miles of lines than that. They already got 100 miles done of the 150, but really it's just a small part of the PG&E infrastructure.
You know, I'm looking at some more of the comments coming in on Facebook from our viewers. Kim DeMott has a good point here, talking about the PG&E website. She says the PG&E website has been down nonstop for me here in Lincoln since yesterday, along with phone calling, emailing. I'm medical too and haven't received a single phone call, text, or email, and we know that the PG&E
supposed to be doing.
Well, and those are the things we need to hear about. You need to let us know if your cell phone stops working because the cell towers are going down. Let us know about it, because we need to ask the questions of the people who are supposed to keep these things running. And if you're supposed to be getting a phone call because PG&E knows that you have medical conditions and you didn't get that phone call, well, we can't let PG&E get away with their talking points that they have. We actually need to get back to them and say, hey, this viewer, you never called. She's on oxygen. Nobody checked with her, because the concern here, I'm raising the issue, is we may have deaths because of this outage.
Right, right. Yeah, and I know that we have something here we call PIO sound, which is Public Information Officer sound, which we try to stay away from because they tend to say the same thing. I mean, they're doing their job and they're coached to say certain things, but this is one of those situations where we need to kind of dig deeper than that and push a little bit harder. You know, without sounding like jerks, we're doing our jobs because we want to get the answers for you. And obviously, with Curtis and Julie and their investigative team.
I'm okay being a jerk.
You're
I will
okay.
ask the questions, and I will be very straightforward because there's nothing more frustrating than asking a point-blank question
and not getting a
a talking point instead of an answer.
Well, one thing I know that Julie Watts, our investigator, along with you, she's interviewed Governor Newsom a number of times, and I've spoken with him as well about this issue. PG&E is front and center in his mind in terms of what needs to be done and what he'd like to see happen. So we'll be getting answers through him as well. 7:35 just about right now. Again, you're watching us online, the continuing coverage of the power outages. Lots of people commenting, lots of questions. School closures. Mom, Dad, what are you doing tomorrow, right? I don't know. Take the kids, go up to Apple Valley maybe, because some schools are going to be closed again tomorrow. Gold Oak Union School District, Gold Trail Union School District, El Dorado County, right? Placerville Union School District. We have them all on our website too, by the way, cbs13.com. Following more, Camino Union School District, El Dorado Union High, Mother Lode, Pioneer. So more than a few, right? Too many to mention. We have it on our website. PG&E's news conference was interesting. Got combative sometimes, right? They just were, kind of dancing around some questions, and some reporters were getting a little angry?
Yeah, there were some heated moments, we understand. Darren, do we have a little bit of sound that we can turn around from that news conference? All right, let's listen in.
To minimize the impact and disruption to our customers, we have identified limited areas where we could safely energize sections by reconfiguring our electrical system, because that part of our circuit and our system was not in a high fire threat area. And as a result, we've been able to bring service back to approximately 44,000 of the 500,000 customers.
So that was the answer to a lot of people in the foothills had their power shut off, but the lights are already back on. So what was going on with that? We got another one talking about upset the power shut off too early this morning. Why so early? There's no wind. I can't fly a kite if I tried. So why'd you shut it off too early or so early?
Given the complexity and the complex nature of the de-energization sequence and the multiple areas within our service territory that are in scope, the de-energization sequence that we had to implement has to ensure the continued stability of the grid itself. And that's the reason why we fortunately also had to impact Marin and some of the additional areas that really are going to see that peak risk time period this evening going into early tomorrow morning. It really has to do with the nature of the system itself.
All right. School closures.
Yeah,
got a few?
Just a few. There's so many schools in our region who are being impacted, by this. Let's listen in to what PG&E had to say addressing some of that.
Yeah, we don't have that, right? Yeah, those are.
It makes it a little bit stressful. Anybody who could watch our kids up here are also impacted.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was a frustrated mom. She had a couple of kids. She has one with a disability. So I mean, feel for her because she was like, who's gonna watch my kids? What's gonna happen? So here you go. School closures, a list right there. Pollock Pines, El Dorado County, Rescue Union, Solano Community Colleges, to name a few. We have it also posted on our website, cbs13.com. How's it looking out there as we run down some more lists for you?
Yeah.
Is the wind died down? Are we going to have any relief? I mean,
no.
That's the million-dollar question right now. Dave, what are you seeing out there?
Well, I'm going to give you the silver lining to this. At least it wasn't hot today, okay? We got that going for us. We topped out in the mid-70s, as you can see, low 70s out in the foothills, upper 60s. And I thought I would throw in here a future cast on the wind. So these are sustained. Now, remember, we'll have stronger gusts, but do notice how the red kind of picks up over the west side of the valley. So this is where they're thinking about this event happening overnight. And notice we're still looking pretty strong, sustained winds at 20 to 25 around the Sacramento area, and they're starting to pick up in the high country as well. But they're not that strong on into the foothills, and it looks like they'll start to back off by midday. So that's why the wind advisory is allowed to expire by about midday. And then look at this as you go toward the weekend. It's all done. I just want to add another note because we've been talking about things that you don't think about during a power outage. I got my first generator, and I hooked that thing. Remember, I talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Going to hook this thing up, ready to go. So I've got everything going. And the one thing that I didn't think about, and think about this if you're up in the foothills, you're a downsloping lot where you actually have to have a pump to pump your water, everything that comes out of your shower, and everything up to the street. Those work on electricity. Well, unless you have it plugged directly into the house and can function to have that run, you can't use your facilities at all. Because you can't, if water goes down in there, it's just going to fill the tank and come back into your house. So if you are doing that don't, because you'll end up with a lot of damage potentially. And that was just something I didn't even think about. So I'm going to have to readdress this with my new generator to try to, you know, make sure I don't have to deal with that problem. I washed my hair in my driveway.
Yeah, so that's the big question, Dave. Are we going to see a picture later on from one of your neighbors of Dave Bender taking a shower outside?
I hope not.
Okay.
All right.
We'll be the first to show it.
It's not going to be a pretty picture, that's for sure.
Yeah, it could be some breaking news. Hey, Dave, we've got a Facebook viewer comment here from Leanne Mancini Lagarda. She says, we've been lucky so far, but the winds have been crazy. Everything in Plumas Lake is flying right now, but we still have power. So how are things looking over there?
Well, you know, it's a good question as far as why they would still have power. It's, again, probably dealing with the grid itself. And, again, you got to pinpoint me Plumas Lake itself. Is it, do you guys know exactly where Plumas Lake is?
No.
Okay, guys. Now, I don't think it's up in Plumas County. It's somewhere down in the Central Valley for the most part. So to answer your question on that, I don't have an exact answer on why you still have power, but if you've got gusty winds and things are flying around, it's probably the result of the fact that that particular set of lines coming into your area is not compromised in some other place. A lot of places, most likely the lines are compromised coming into an area, so they have to shut it all the way down the line just to be preventative with that kind of stuff. Got another question or anything?
You know, I'm going through everything that we are getting on Facebook right now, and we can't stress this enough. We appreciate all of your questions and all of your comments so very much because we know that so many of you out there are being impacted by this. So I'm trying to filter through everything, and obviously, you can imagine a lot of people very frustrated.
Using colorful language?
Very
colorful language?
Yes, I have to.
Well, you know, they just got back from happy hour. They found a place with power, and they're hunkered down. By the way, we don't want you to change it, but the Winters Fire Department, they did offer people to come on inside and watch the baseball game tonight. That's kind of a nice gesture I saw on the old Twitter there. 7:41 right now. We got Curtis back here, and Dave's been here. By the way, did someone forget to tell our crew that we were going to be out here? Because the air's not on in here. Just complain.
Just throwing it up there.
You're sitting there without power, and I'm complaining about it being 72 in here. I apologize. But we want to get to some more viewer comments because, Curtis, you've been tracking some, and I know that...
Well, I love when we go on Facebook because, I mean, there really is instant communication with the audience. You know, Linda Corselli wants to... She says, my sister and brother-in-law... have no power. They live in the Reading area. I mean, so this is pretty widespread. Colfax, Christina says Colfax still has no power, no wind in that area either, but school is open there. Some people, did we ever figure out PG&E's new website? Because that was one thing.
No, you know what? I was just looking at that. It's funny you bring that up because I just went back to their website on their main page, and I'm not seeing anything about this new website.
Well, new as in today new?
Yeah, so because they had such a massive issue with the outages on their website, because again, this was nothing short of a disaster when it comes to notifying people of the plan, they have now created a new website. Now, the caveat was, even though they announced this at the start of the news conference at 6, they said, we're not going to tell you what that new website is until afterwards, and we will mention it on social media. So I'm curious right now if we go to Twitter or Facebook if they have listed that new website. But evidently you're supposed to be able to go in, put your address, and see right there where you are.
I'm looking on the actual PG&E website right now. It looks like it's up over here, but I'm not seeing anything on Twitter.
Social media.
Yeah, we'll find it for you.
Right now.
Another viewer, Catherine Wright, Westerhouse. One thing we talked about, she wants to know, and she said businesses too being impacted. That's a lot of jobs impacted today because obviously a lot of places couldn't open up because they didn't have any power. So, you know, the money loss. Talk about money loss.
Well,
so one estimate, I think it was on Evening News, they talked about $2.5 billion?
Right, so who's going to pay for that?
Right.
And it'll be interesting. Some people have mentioned, you know, class action suits. I don't know. We have a bankrupt company here, but there are a lot of people who are suffering today because they have bills to pay and they can't make money because they have no power. A couple comments that came in through the Call Curtis Facebook page. We have Kathy Bulus. She wrote, "This is insane. In 2019, PG&E has known forever that their line should have been buried, but that cost money and shareholders' profits were more important than safety. How do we hold them responsible for the greed? Well, you elect people. And we have regulators, and you know, it's ultimately going to be those folks who have to, oversee this process. But it is a tough situation. I mean, PG&E is the utility; they have the infrastructure, so It's not like we have a lot of other options.
Darren Stagner, our 4 o'clock producer extraordinaire, you know well, working overtime, getting some answers for us. PG&E's website. Let's show it to you because it makes no mention of their new website, apparently. So looks like it's, does that say, oh yeah, it's up there. And there's a Twitter page right there.
No mention of it either. So I'm not blind. That's good.
Yeah, so they're going to get beaten up on a lot of fronts. You know, also just putting a website up there and knowing, hey, Bob, what if this crashes? What are we going to do? We'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. I mean, it's not good enough when you have so many people impacted, and you talk about when it's going to be restored. The last power outage they had, it took the utility less than a day to restore power to customers, but that was during a 3-county shutoff. 3 counties. So right now, we're talking a whole lot more than that, right? Some 40-something counties.
So they're saying it could take as many as 5 days.
Well, the sun's down now, and they made it very clear that they can't do any of the inspecting of the lines until the sun comes up. So that's not going to happen tonight.
Noon tomorrow.
Yeah. So we're talking about, what, 40-some-odd helicopters? Is that right?
45 helicopters.
And then 6,000 people who will go and visually inspect these lines to see if there was any damage from this storm. But I've been pretty fiery when it comes to the criticism of PG&E. I mean, this has been a mess. I've made that clear. But what would have happened if they didn't shut off the power? Right. We had the same exact situation that we had 2 years ago or last year. I mean, what would have happened? That's the situation that they're in. They have a delicate dance, but they certainly don't want to be causing any more fires at this point.
Yeah, it goes back to what you said and what the conversation always comes up to, put them underground. I know it'll cost a bunch of money, but guess what? They made a bunch of money, and they give millions in bonuses, and we get it. And I know it sounds like we're beaten up, but the solution is put them underground. Do whatever it takes. If it's going to be bone dry here, and the winds are going to kick up, and we're going to have fire danger, and fire season is 24/7, 365 now. Take care of it, you know, before this.
Yeah, you know, I'm interested. A lot of people on our Facebook page have lots of good information and lots of comments, lots of questions. But we heard earlier in the day, so many people were making a run on supplies at stores, you know, trying to get water, batteries, everything that you need in an emergency situation like this. But I'm not seeing anything on our Facebook page. We'd love to hear from our viewers if you tried to go to the store and the store shelves were bare, if you were able to get what you need, if you were waiting to the last minute.
There isn't a silver lining. I shouldn't say that. But in a situation like this, we really know what it's like to not have power now. So we're in a disaster-stricken region when it comes to earthquakes, when it comes to fires. And so people are really learning what you need to have and how important those kits are, how important it is to have food, how you're going to cook that food if you have no electricity. So this is putting people to the test. And, you know, perhaps people will be better prepared after going through this.
I think a lot of people are going to be putting some generators on their Christmas list.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
But that poses a whole different issue.
Yes.
You have to keep these generators away from the house. You can't have these fumes. I mean, it does. It poses a whole additional risk. Some people have asked, you know, if I get solar on the roof, is that going to work for me? Well, if you have battery packs and you have on-site storage for that power, but so many people who have solar panels, they're selling the solar back to the companies, and so they're, you know, saving on their bill that way. But when the power goes out, you still don't have power. So if you have solar panels, you have to make sure you have a battery or an equipment that stores it so you'll still have energy.
7:48 right now. We thank you for joining us. We have a few more things to talk about here. Just a reminder, tonight at 10 o'clock, we'll have everything covered on CBS 13 News, including the latest wind conditions. We do know that they're going to start inspecting at noon tomorrow, but we also know there's a third round of shutoffs coming, and we're going to tell you exactly when that happens. Of course, we're on at 11 again on CBS 13 with more content, more live interviews. Sharon is getting some more answers for us. Thank you for the feedback. Nikki Strange, Strangelove, Nikki Strangelove. I love these names. Made up or not, I just love them, right? Nikki Strangelove says, when will PG&E stop dodging the news questions and be honest with their community of their own mistakes is the real question. So the dialogue's happening, and that's that's why we're on the air right now with
My favorite comment, Jason Carver just said, just wanted to thank you all for this live stream. I'm getting better information from you in Sacramento than I am in the Bay Area. So that's why we did this. So,
great.
Jason, thank you for
letting us know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about trying to get some money back for customers.
Yeah, compensation. Yeah, a lot of people asking about that. Can you get reimbursed by PG&E for any spoiled food or lost business?
Yeah, no, go away. That's the answer. No. PG&E does have a storm safety net program that reimburses customers up to $100 for outages longer than 2 days. So in Dave's house, that's a couple bottles of wine, $100, right? But the utility confirms people affected by this public safety power outage will not qualify for reimbursement under the program, which is designed for storm inconvenience.
Yeah, a few things to consider. However, you will not be charged for the period the power is off.
Better not.
Good to know that. Yeah, you shouldn't be. Yeah, because you're not consuming power. It makes sense, right? And any PG&E customer can file a reimbursement claim at any time for any reason, of course. PG&E says all claims are evaluated on a case-by-case basis.
Before we get to the Roseville question, I'm going to digress a little bit. So Granite Bay had their power turned off this morning, and we didn't because we live in Roseville. And so, we get home late, so we like to sleep in sometimes. 7 o'clock, the doorbell rings. It's my sister-in-law. She brought over some food that was going to spoil in the refrigerator, saying, hey, can we put this in your refrigerator because, not to spoil. And I hadn't had yogurt in a while, and she was like, yeah, help yourself to whatever. So I grabbed some yogurt. I brought it to work. It was expired. September 28th, Wendy, was the date on that. It's well into October.
Didn't need the space in the refrigerator.
You're trying to kill me, is my question.
There were some alternative plans there.
Speaking of Roseville, the public safety power shutoffs only affected PG&E customers. So why aren't Roseville Electric or SMUD customers impacted, or will they be impacted?
Yeah, so there's always a chance, right?
Yeah,
But the
so
power
you're saying
grid
there's a chance.
is interconnected.
Yeah.
If PG&E actually shuts off a major transmission line, it could impact other utilities downstream.
Right.
But Roseville, SMUD, they all tell us they have backup power sources, and because we're not in peak summer season right now in the energy period, there should be plenty of other power to grab from to make up for losses from PG&E fed lines.
And SMUD adds its lines are rated for much higher winds than we are seeing, while Roseville Electric says, as we talked about this before, 80% of its lines are buried underground, so neither are worried about the fire danger. Viewer Barbara Schuler, do we want to go with her? Yeah, she posted on Facebook asking the question, everyone wants to know, when will the power be back on?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? I mean, PG&E is telling us that this process can't start until the fire weather passes. So it's kind of like a hurry-up-and-wait game. Crews need to go out and assess the power lines before they can turn the power back on. PG&E says it has 45 helicopters and 6,000 field crews ready to go as soon as the fire danger passes. So again, just a hurry up and wait game at this point, but they're saying that it could go up to 5 days.
Yeah. Dave, you're tracking it. I know you'll have a lot more information at 10 o'clock, but right now, what do you got?
Well, we got the winds starting to pick up a little bit over toward the west, and that's pretty much where the strongest winds should be. That wind field will be from the Sacramento River off to the west, and to the north there. Sacramento sustained winds, last check was 20, and some of the gusts are picking up to the upper 20s to low 30s, with a big pocket of fairly strong wind right through here, and this should be working its way down across. So we'll be watching that, of course, up into the foothills. You may get some gusts as we head on into the evening hours tonight, overnight at about 30 miles per hour, but the strong winds are going to be off on the west side of the valley here. So this stays in place until noon, so that's a good indication that that's probably why PG&E is going to go, okay, noon tomorrow, we're going to go out and start looking at those lines, and that's because the wind advisory will be allowed to expire. At least that sort of makes sense. The stronger winds you see on that graphic are associated with winds more toward the west side of the valley, west of the Sacramento River. And again, I haven't had down trees, but you can have some limb issues and things like that as a possibility. And this stays into effect until 5 p.m. And that goes hand in hand with the winds. You just got the dry conditions out there. And for the most part, it's a classic fall type pattern. And we said earlier that, this is the new norm. But, we've had wind events, and we do have wind events like this every year. So it's interesting that PG&E hasn't even thought that, thinking about this in the past, knowing that these things are Mother Nature's way of transitioning from basically summer into fall and trying to get into winter. So bottom line is be cognizant of the fire danger as we go on through about the next 18 hours or so, and then the winds should be backing down. Tony?
All right. You got something?
Yeah, Virginia Salas Fierro, watching from Colorado. She's trying to get some updated information on her family and friends. She said that it's really hard to find information, updated information, so she just wanted to say thank you to the whole CBS 13 crew for the information. Much appreciated. We're happy to help.
Speaking of info, there's what you've been looking at. The top portion is what was shut off earlier, along with the yellow portion. Orange is still to come. So lots of people throughout Northern California and some down south as well. If you're just tuning in, hey, thank you for tuning in and watching us. At the top, you may have missed Sharon Raget getting answers. Is your husband calling you?
No, it's actually Dave Bender's wife.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Hey,
No,
do you want to get this, buddy?
I'm not taking that call.
Oh, no, it's his daughter. There we go.
Hey, Dave, I saw you showering outside today. I have pictures.
Oh, my gosh.
It's the blackmail call that we've been waiting for. Anyway, so...
Honey, we're live on Facebook. We're on Facebook. Watch us. Bye.
This is special. This is
Oh,
good.
goodness.
So anyway, Sharon Raget had
Perfect timing.
PG&E spokesperson Brandy Merlot. She was nice enough to stay and answer some questions. I mean, a lot of it was the company line, a lot of it was not answering, but at least we got some answers for our viewers.
I would not want her job.
No, absolutely.
Or any spokesperson, because that's quite the job right now to be speaking on behalf of PG&E.
Yeah, no
It's hard to
doubt.
get in front of all
Lot
the
of
cameras
trouble.
and do that.
But we've invited, my point is to go back and listen to that, take a look at it. I know TV news stations, the knock is we're all the same, right? But we really do try to get you answers. It's not just a slogan. We try to take it to that next step. I mean, we give you the headlines of the day, and we give you all that stuff. And no, we don't have a fancy helicopter. We have a pretty cool drone, though. But when it comes to getting answers, we really take that to heart. And we're working for you. That's why local news will never go away. People are like, local news. No, we're community-based. We're here to get answers for you. What did your wife say?
Up to you.
No, we're not going to show that picture. I don't think we are. It's
up
we're not
to
gonna
him.
Let's not show it.
That's having to wash my hair in the driveway.
To our web team.
Yeah.
And they
Dave's been
can make
working
the
out
ultimate
lately. He
decision.
wants to brag.
There you go.
Let's not do that, though. Yeah.
Well, I've seen the picture. Dave showed me the picture. But Dave, you're what, in your driveway? And
Yeah. Oh, I got to put the. Hang on. I got to put
With
the
a
phone.
bucket.
with a bucket.
Hang on.
And a
Shampoo
sponge.
in the hair.
Yeah, hang on.
And
Oh, it is Wednesday. It is shampoo day.
I'm trying to find
That's
it
why
here.
he
Now
smells
you're
so fresh
forcing
and so
me.
clean.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gonna have to zoom into that. Yeah.
Thankfully, you know what? Say your Zoom's broken, Cam One. The Zoom's broken. You can't do
He's
it.
going to live on forever on Facebook.
Oh my
There's
goodness.
There he
Let me
is.
put my sunglasses. Do you know?
That is.
Do they have tanning booths
No,
in
they
El
do
Dorado
not.
Hills? Because I
Apparently
can
not.
get you a monthly. No, you know what?
they do. It just doesn't have power right now.
That's right. Yeah.
There we go. Exactly.
You can tell we're all getting
Exactly.
hungry right now as we work through the 7 o'clock hour. But once again, lots to talk about tonight, Adrian, because we have crews
Yeah.
out and about. Steve Large, he's got a couple of good stories he's working on. One having to do with how people are kind of celebrating the power outage in one town with like a little snarky message to PG&E. And what's going on in Nevada County, Nevada City?
There's an ice cream store,
Yeah,
right,
that's
that
possible.
has a PG&E
Light parade.
special. Oh, the light parade that's not really a light
But the ice cream.
The ice cream store story is an ice cream parlor has its power turned off.
Right, so it's gonna
melt.
They're worried about all the ice cream melting.
Oh,
And now they have a PG&E special that they're offering customers. And they actually put out a kite, too, in a little bit of a clever move to say, hey, there's really no wind here.
Yeah.
Kite's not flying. So a lot to get to tonight at 10 o'clock. We hope you join us. And thank
Absolutely.
you again for being here, our Facebook viewers.
Curtis, thank you. Dave,
Yeah.
Adrian,
Thank you.
Darren. You know it's time when Darren goes, we got to go. I've been here
Wrap
all
it
day.
up.
CBS13.com. We appreciate your viewership. And tonight at 10 o'clock, we'll have a whole lot more. So stay with us. Take care.
Have a
God
good night.
bless.
I'm going to call my daughter now.